Well, Doug and Nicole, just in the last hour, President Trump weighed in on the redistricting showdown, saying Texas House Democrats have abandoned the state. Democrats, though, have previously denied that claim.
What's a politician's biggest fear? A tough vote, a public gaffe, a scandal? What if I told you a group of Texas lawmakers decided to run from all three?
I also want to talk to my colleagues, my Republican colleagues in Texas. You wrong for this. You wrong for this.
They didn't just miss a meeting. They hopped on private jets, fled the state, and launched a political showdown that's unlike anything we've seen.
You already have the governor's office. You're the majority in the Senate, the majority in the House. What more do you want?
This isn't just about a single bill. It's a high-stakes game of political chicken that has everyone asking, what happens when a group of elected officials decides their best move is to simply vanish? On a specific date, dozens of Democratic members of the Texas House of Representatives left the state, traveling to Illinois and other locations. Their departure was a direct attempt to prevent the legislature from reaching a quorum, which is the minimum number of members required to be present to conduct business. By doing this, they intended to block a vote on a new congressional redistricting map that had been put forward by Republicans. This action was not the first time such a tactic had been used in the state's political history. Democrats had previously left the state in 2021 to protest a restrictive voting bill. At that time, they eventually returned and the legislation passed, but not before they faced legal challenges and new rules were put in place. This time, however, the stakes appeared even higher, with President Trump reportedly pushing for the new map, which aimed to net Republicans additional seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. The Texas Democrats who fled the state did so knowing that it would stall the legislative process, as a quorum of 100 members is needed to vote. With Republicans holding a majority, they still required some Democrats to be present to meet this constitutional threshold. The Democrats' decision to leave the state was a calculated move to deny their opponents this necessary attendance. Many of the absent lawmakers have publicly stated their commitment to staying away as long as it takes for the special session to expire, in an effort to thwart the redistricting efforts. They have argued that the new map is a Trump gerrymander and that they are fighting to protect voting rights. The lawmakers are reportedly staying in states like Illinois and New York, where Democratic governors have offered their support, making it difficult for Texas authorities to compel their return. The reaction from Republican leadership was swift and forceful. Texas House Speaker Dustin Burrows immediately began taking action, signing civil arrest warrants for the absent Democrats. These warrants, however, only apply within the state of Texas, meaning they cannot be arrested as long as they remain outside its borders. While this made the warrants largely symbolic, they were a clear signal of the majority party's resolve. Governor Greg Abbott also became a key figure in the escalating standoff. He threatened to call special session after special session until the Democrats returned and the Republican agenda was passed. Furthermore, he directed the Texas Department of Public Safety to locate, arrest, and return any House member who abandoned their duty to Texans. The threat of arrest was seen by some as a drastic measure, but it was a response that underscored the seriousness with which the Republican leaders viewed the quorum break. The financial and legal pressure on the absent Democrats has been mounting. A rule was passed in 2023, following the previous walkout, that levies a $500 fine for each day a lawmaker is absent. This has added a significant financial burden to the lawmakers who have chosen to remain out of state. However, the costs of their travel, accommodation, and the fines have reportedly been covered by political action committees and other fundraising efforts. This has led to another major development in the conflict: the involvement of Attorney General Ken Paxton. Paxton launched an investigation into the groups and individuals allegedly funding the Democrats' travel, raising questions about potential bribery and campaign finance violations. He specifically named political organizations and individuals, issuing formal requests to examine their communications and receipts to see if any laws were broken. This legal pressure on the financial backers of the walkout further intensified the political standoff. The back and forth between the two parties has been playing out in the media and the courts. While Democrats have portrayed their actions as a last resort defense of democracy and their constitutional duties, Republicans have painted them as derelict and having abandoned their responsibilities to the people who elected them. The legal battles have also been escalating. Governor Abbott has not only threatened to have the Democrats' seats declared vacant, but has also petitioned the all-Republican Texas Supreme Court to remove a specific leader of the Democratic caucus from office. Paxton, for his part, has asked a court to take action against a prominent Democratic figure, arguing that he was illegally fundraising to support the walkout. The outcome of these legal maneuvers could set a powerful precedent for how future legislative stalemates are handled in the state. The conflict has become a spectacle, with the absent Democrats receiving a great deal of media attention, but also facing significant consequences for their actions. The situation has highlighted the deep partisan divisions within the state legislature and the lengths to which both sides are willing to go to achieve their political goals. Ultimately, the initial phase of the conflict was defined by the Texas Democrats' dramatic exit from the state and the immediate, multi-pronged counterattack by Republican leadership. The Democrats used a procedural tool, breaking a quorum, to stop a legislative vote. In response, Republicans used a combination of legislative and legal tactics, including arrest warrants, financial penalties, and a legal investigation into the funding of the walkout. This created a high-stakes standoff that moved quickly from a simple legislative protest to a much larger political and legal battle with far-reaching consequences for the state's political landscape. The conflict over the Texas Democrats' quorum break has continued to escalate beyond the initial actions and reactions, taking on a more serious tone with the involvement of federal and state legal authorities. The situation has expanded from a legislative dispute to a broader constitutional and legal battle with national implications. One of the most significant developments was the involvement of federal officials. Republican Senator John Cornyn, facing a challenging primary, requested assistance from the FBI to help track down the absent Democratic lawmakers. While the exact scope and legal basis for the FBI's involvement remain unclear, Cornyn's public statements indicated that the Bureau had agreed to assist. This move was seen by many as a major escalation, as it raised questions about the appropriate role of federal law enforcement in a state-level political dispute. Some legal experts have argued that quorum breaking is a civil and political matter, not a federal crime, and that using the FBI for this purpose constitutes a dangerous escalation that weaponizes law enforcement to achieve political goals. This action, however, also serves to highlight the growing partisan divisions and the willingness of politicians to use every tool at their disposal to gain an advantage, even if it means blurring the lines between state and federal authority. In Texas, the Republican leadership has continued its aggressive legal strategy. Governor Greg Abbott, not content with merely issuing civil arrest warrants, took the unprecedented step of petitioning the Texas Supreme Court to have the seats of the absent lawmakers declared vacant. His petition specifically targeted the caucus chair, Representative Jean Wu, as a test case. Abbott's argument is that by abandoning their legislative duties and refusing to return to the state, the lawmakers have forfeited their offices. This legal theory is a novel and untested one, as no Texas lawmaker has ever been removed from office solely for breaking quorum. The Texas Supreme Court, which is composed entirely of Abbott's appointees, has agreed to hear the case but has set a schedule for briefings that will extend beyond the current special session. This delay, while frustrating for Republicans who want a swift resolution, indicates that the court is taking the matter seriously and will not rush to a decision. This legal battle is not just about the current situation, but is a direct attempt to establish a new legal precedent that could have a lasting impact on the power of a legislative minority to stop or delay bills. The conflict has also become a national political issue, extending beyond the borders of Texas. The script notes that the Texas Democrats' move has been seen as part of a larger nationwide battle over redistricting. For decades, both parties have engaged in the practice of gerrymandering to create districts that favor their side. The script points out that Democrats in states like Illinois, Maryland, and California have used this to their advantage. However, with Republicans now in control in more states, the tables are turning. The Texas showdown is viewed as a key example of a new, aggressive Republican strategy to redraw maps and cement their power for the next decade. This is seen not just as a reaction to past Democratic actions, but as a new offensive to flip the game board entirely. The monologue argues that Democrats, having previously relied on gerrymandering, are now at a disadvantage because they have limited tools to fight back in states where independent commissions or state constitutional provisions restrict their ability to redraw maps. The national political fallout from the Texas situation has been significant. It has energized conservatives across the country who see the actions of Abbott and other Republicans as a decisive response to what they view as political gamesmanship. The script mentions that Republican politicians in other states are taking notes, seeing the Texas model as a successful blueprint for how to use legal, constitutional, and procedural tools to achieve their goals. The optics for the Texas Democrats have been widely criticized, even by some media outlets. The monologue references a CNN panel to show how the Democrats' actions, running off to a different state, look bad and do not help their cause. This highlights the double-edged sword of such a dramatic protest. While it draws attention to the issue, it can also alienate the public and be easily framed by opponents as an irresponsible abandonment of duty. The Texas conflict, therefore, is not just a local fight, but a microcosm of a larger national struggle over political power and the rules of the game. The legal and political strategies employed by the Republican leadership in this phase of the conflict have been designed to do more than just get the Democrats back to the State House. They are focused on setting a precedent that will make it harder for similar actions to be taken in the future. By involving the FBI, they are pushing the boundaries of federal and state cooperation. By going to the state's highest court, they are attempting to establish a new legal basis for removing lawmakers who break a quorum. These actions demonstrate a long-term strategic vision that goes far beyond the immediate legislative session. The Texas Tribune has reported on the various legal moves, including the petition to the Supreme Court, and the political implications of these actions. The entire situation has created a dynamic where the Democrats' protest, intended to stall a vote, has instead become the catalyst for a series of events that may fundamentally change the political and legal landscape of Texas for years to come. The ongoing political standoff in Texas is evolving from a localized legislative dispute into a much broader struggle with nationwide implications for American politics. What started as a quorum-breaking tactic by a group of Texas Democrats to block a redistricting bill has now become a case study in how political parties are using every legal and procedural tool at their disposal to gain and maintain power. The narrative has shifted from the Democrats' protest to the Republicans' assertive response, which is now being watched and emulated by conservatives in other states. This is not just about who wins the next election in a few districts, but about who gets to set the rules for the next decade. One of the most significant developments is the aggressive legal strategy being pursued by Texas Republicans. Governor Abbott and Attorney General Ken Paxton have gone beyond traditional political maneuvers and are attempting to create new legal precedents. Abbott's petition to the Texas Supreme Court to have the seat of Democratic Caucus Chair Gene Wu declared vacant for abandoning his post is a particularly bold move. While the Texas Supreme Court is yet to issue a final ruling, the fact that they are even considering such an unprecedented case is a powerful signal. The petition is not just about removing one lawmaker, it is a direct challenge to the long-standing political tactic of breaking a quorum. If the court rules in favor of Abbott, it would fundamentally change the power dynamics in the state legislature, effectively taking away a key tool for a minority party to delay or block legislation. The script points out that this is about establishing a precedent that would make it harder for future Democratic legislators to undo the changes, cementing Republican power for years to come. The national dimension of the conflict is also becoming clearer. The script argues that the Texas showdown is part of a nationwide Republican offensive to redraw maps and erase blue state hypocrisy. For years, Democrats have used gerrymandering to their advantage in states like Illinois, Maryland, and California, creating districts that are heavily skewed in their favor. The script claims that Republicans are now using the same rules and tactics, and the Democrats' outcry is being framed as an overreaction to a taste of their own medicine. This narrative is a powerful one for Republicans, who can argue they are simply leveling the playing field. The Texas model, therefore, is being presented as a new playbook for conservatives across the country, a signal that they are no longer willing to play by what they see as a set of rules rigged against them. The outcome in Texas could serve as a model for other red states to pursue aggressive redistricting strategies, potentially tipping the balance of power in the U.S. House of Representatives for the foreseeable future. The Texas Democrats' protest, while successful in temporarily stalling a vote, is being portrayed as an overall political failure. By fleeing the state, they gave their opponents a powerful public relations advantage. The script notes that the optics were brutal, with Democrats being cast as lawmakers, hiding in hotel bars, and abandoning their duties to their constituents. This has allowed Republicans to frame themselves as the party of responsibility and good governance, while the Democrats are seen as engaging in a stunt. The public, in this narrative, is not siding with the lawmakers who ran from a fight. The involvement of federal agencies like the FBI and the possibility of legal consequences for the Democrats' financial backers have only amplified this message. The script also highlights the futility of the Democrats' threats of retaliation. It argues that blue states like California and New York, while threatening to redraw their own maps, are constrained by their own laws and constitutional provisions, such as independent redistricting commissions, which they put in place when they thought they would hold power forever. This is seen as a fatal flaw in the Democrats' strategy, as they have already gerrymandered themselves to the max and have no new seats to gain. Ultimately, the Texas conflict is being presented as a pivotal moment in American politics, marking a significant shift in strategy for the Republican Party. The script argues that conservatives are moving away from a defensive posture and are now actively rewriting the rules of engagement. They are using every available legal, constitutional, and procedural tool to secure a long-term advantage. The Democrats, in this view, are left with an empty playbook, having exhausted their own tactical options and now facing a determined opposition that is using their own methods against them. This is not just a fight over one state's congressional maps. It is a battle for the future of American political power. The resolution of this conflict will likely have a ripple effect across the country, influencing midterm elections and beyond, and setting a precedent for how political battles will be fought for the next decade. The Texas Democrats, by attempting to stall a vote, may have inadvertently sparked a national political realignment that they are ill-equipped to counter.